kicking and screaming by you and others into being more proactive for the Second Amendment. As you point out, they were set up, the NRA, at the end of the Civil War to teach Northerners how to shoot as an auxiliary of the federal government. So that's why they've always had such a cozy relationship now with those that occupy the federal government. But we have Joe Klein saying how guns won, why Americans have turned against gun control. And then they go on to basically say how horrible it is. But suddenly, Mr. Crystal, Mr. Michael Savage, Scalia's come out and said, oh, we could restrict, if something's scary, which isn't actually true. We've seen the head of News Corp, Murdoch, say you don't need semi-automatic. Since when did Fox News turn into the Michael Moore, Chucky Schumer, Mayor Bloomberg channel? Since when did this happen, Mr. Pratt?
Well, actually, all along, the Fox News has been, I would say they're closer to what they claim to be, fair and balanced, than a conservative network. There are some conservatives on there. The one that's most constitutional is Judge Napolitano, and he doesn't have his own show any longer. They bring him in as a contributing legal analyst, which is great because he's really super at that. But they're conservative without necessarily checking out the Constitution. And that's where a lot of folks run into trouble. They're not at liberty to want the government to do more than we the people have allowed the government to do. And I think even on the conservative side, fall into the mindset that Barack Obama clearly has when he was talking to a Republican delegation at the White House. He reminded them that, well, I won, as if that means he can do anything he wants. And that's not exactly right.
But all of these people have to know that their entire base hates their guts now when Mr. Crystal comes out and says, we can ban all the semi-autos. I mean, there's clearly a concerted effort here when the Republican leadership is begging the Democrats to bring forward restrictions.
I think they're going to pay for that at the ballot box. There are still primaries left this year, and some Republican heads could roll if they're willing to put themselves on that block. And the voters have already shown that they're willing to take out Republicans. Incumbents have lost, and in open primaries, people that might have had an easy time getting elected because of their prominence in other positions have lost in these primaries. With maybe a couple of exceptions at the federal level, the victories have been going to Tea Party type candidates, and that certainly includes pro-Second Amendment candidates. So they can talk like that at their own peril, and it shows me that they don't yet understand that guns is the third rail of American politics. You touch it at your own peril. Be advised, because you may come back in a political body bag.
Larry Pratt, head of Gun Owners of America, is our guest. Larry, we've talked about the poll numbers showing that in the 60s and 70s, it was maybe 55% pro-gun, the other 45 buying into the trendiness of the nanny state. I see numbers of over 70% now being pro-Second Amendment. People get it now that the government can't and won't protect you.
Right.
And so there's a major shift happening. What do you make of the anti-gunners now admitting this, but saying they're going to circle the wagons and come after us that much harder?
Well, it's kind of what you expect from a fanatic. A fanatic is defined as someone who tries something and fails and redoubles their effort doing the same thing time and again. And the fact is they really don't get it. I did a debate in Spanish on CNN Español, and this thing went on for an hour. And when I would lay out some of the simple facts, like from 1991 until the present, the U.S. murder rate has fallen by 50%, from around 8 to around 4 per 100,000. And that doesn't bode well for them, because some 40 million guns were transacted in that period of time. America is armed to the teeth, and yet the murder rate is substantially declining. And because there's 12 people that tragically lost their lives as much as anything because they didn't have a gun and nobody else did in the theater. We're supposed to rush into the gun control bag and say, you got us? I don't think so.
Well, did you notice gun sales doubled the week after that happened? Already record numbers that doubled that. And then I saw polls where there was people were even more pro-gun after the shooting. That's what's freaking them out, is they stage Fast and Furious. I believe they staged this. All the signs are there. And people really get that now and go, no, I want a gun because there's a crazy Ronald McDonald murderer, out there, if that's even true.
That is the message to take away. And that's what I was telling these left-wing media types in the frenzy following the shooting. I said, what you're doing is predictable, but let me tell you, I will predict that this has actually shifted opinion more in the favor of gun owners of America and gun owners generally. This is something where the American people realize, as you said, Alex, the police can't be there to protect us. It's not their job. They don't have the numbers. It's just not going to happen. And the murderer in Aurora didn't choose the police station to start gunning people down. He went in through a door. He entered the front door first, bought a ticket, and then went outside to get his guns during the showing of the film. He walked right by a no-gun sign.
Exactly. They're talking about putting metal detectors in and having TSA style everywhere. All that means is that when a shooter shows up at the mall or the theater, they know they've got disarmed people that they can feed on.
Absolutely, because he could go and do exactly what he did in the theater in Aurora, having gone through a metal detector. Wouldn't have made a hill of beans of difference. And I'll tell you what would happen if they put up metal detectors at movie theaters. Netflix would say, yeah, do it. Do it.
Well, you're right. But I mean, what do you expect them to do now? I mean, they're certainly circling the wagons when suddenly all these Republicans come out and sound like Bill Clinton or people like Michael Moore. I mean, they are certainly desperate. What do you expect them to do now that they finally realize that everyone does the opposite of what they say, that everyone hates them? America's waking up. I mean, I'm not just hyping that.
No.
Are you seeing the same thing?
Absolutely. I was telling them that they were losing the propaganda battle. It is, and actually, when I was on CNN Espanol, and I was telling them nothing is going to happen because the American people are so against your gun grabbing that if you do anything, you're going to pay a price this November. And they said, yeah, that's right. We acknowledge that, but it's just really so bad.
Well, I mean, look, you've got this domesticated America who grew up with parents that didn't teach them about guns, who literally, men lay down while their wife gets raped. It's that minority of weirdos who want to be cowards and weak, who look at us who are upstanding, armed, successful. I mean, we're not socialists. They are. I mean, it's just on every front. These are screwed up, dumb people. And look, we're tired of being lectured by them. It's over. They are losing momentum.
Amen, brother. That is exactly what's happening, and it does freak them out. I have not enjoyed anything more than dealing with the BBC or CNN or public broadcasting, or there's an occasional commercial liberal, doesn't have much of an audience. I was probably talking to myself, but they just don't know what to say or do other than, can't we just give peace a chance?
Meanwhile, the federal government is arming 450 million hollow points, armored pillboxes, checkpoints, drones, armed drones. Hey, why can the government be arming to the teeth, but we're not supposed to be armed?
It almost strikes me that they're trying to preempt the market. If they buy that many, then the domestic manufacturers may really be very strapped. And in fact, ammunition's quite pricey.
Now, expanding on this, you were on the show Friday. Can you elaborate on the fact that you're saying we have to look at this as possibly being a false flag? I mean, even at the level of, there's the Air Force psychiatrist reprimanded for dangerous drugs to people. There is this dossier he supposedly sent him, what he was going to do, nothing was done. I mean, all the telltale signs. We've seen weird photoshops now of his gas mask at the scene. I mean, this whole thing looks set up.
Yeah, after Fast and Furious, and you know me, I'm not one inclined to go with a conspiracy theory, but there really was a conspiracy in Fast and Furious, and the government not only conspired, they conspired to commit mass murder. Well, if they would do that, then indeed, how can we say that it's impossible that this guy wasn't prompted, goaded, some way led into, cooperated with some kind of a government agent that was there to encourage him, maybe open the theater door? Who knows? The fact of the matter is, if the government is investigating this, we're probably never going to find out. Once the FBI took this thing over, which just outrages me, they have no law enforcement authority constitutionally, and we're letting them conduct the investigation? The folks from Waco, the folks from Ruby Ridge, the folks from other disasters, we're letting them investigate this? Whew.
Very frightening. What do you make? Why do you think, because they're always so deceptive, why would they come out in Time magazine and announce they've lost? I mean, what is the point of that? Because then you read the article and they say, hey, don't worry, we'll still get their guns. But I mean, is this like a Mayday emergency that, you know, the slaves have woken up? What are we going to do?
I think it means they're desperate to get the president reelected, because even he is somewhat restrained, right now because of the election contest. And as far as I can tell right now, he's going to lose and lose big. But if he were to get reelected, oh, buddy, it would be go for the gold. That would be just the end of the country, certainly the end of the Second Amendment. And I think what may have them so desperate is they can see that we hate them, as you were saying. They not only on the Second Amendment issue, but on so many other issues, the president has been the educator in chief. I don't think most people had a clue that there was a chance that we were going socialist in this country. But once we elected a socialist as president, and he is so tone deaf and actually rather incompetent, as the author of The Amateur argues in his book, Ed Klein, this guy really isn't that bright. He makes the same mistake twice. He doesn't seem to pay attention even to his own polling. The fact that, well, start with Obamacare. The polls have said from the get-go that it was enormously unpopular, and people were really concerned about jobs. So what did he do? Well, if it had been Bill Clinton, he probably would have worked both tracks, but certainly he would have at least faked it like he was doing something about jobs. But this guy couldn't be bothered.
That's because they want to destroy this country.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, they admit it. They want a post-industrial country, as the UN and Maurice Strong have said. They want to wreck it so they can make us go on welfare under their control. In closing, Larry Pratt of gunowners.org, the watchdog up there on Capitol Hill with your great organization and all your members, and the news alerts that are invaluable. People should visit it and sign up for the free news alerts right now.
Thank you. That's we appreciate that.
I see a false flag in the making, because I know they're telling police and military to get ready for gun confiscation. I've gotten Army manuals where they're training for it. They're telling them something's coming in October. I'm not saying that's going to happen. The point is they're telling them it's coming.
Right.
And if they try gun confiscation, or if they try to restrict, you will get resistance, and that could start a civil war. They might do it while they start a new war or something, thinking that we would patriotically get in line. Are you worried about them setting off a new war to get us in line for gun confiscation, or trying to march the cops off to take the guns, and then a war will start?
I can see them doing something that they think might bring them our favor, our support. Oh, yes, save us from ourselves, sort of thing. But honestly, I have been concerned about that, and we still should be looking out in case they actually do try something. I think now